Morning, Nick here again. I just wanted to pop on quickly, I promise, fibromyalgia insight that I wanted to share today. One of the things that hit me really hard in the face this morning, metaphorically speaking, is that with a very, very oversensitized nervous system, which is fundamentally what fibromyalgia is, one of the things that I've found hugely important and is the difference between whether I have health one day or I don't, is making sure I disengage from too much stimulus at very frequent periods. So that means having large chunks of time where I'm not on social media. Ironic, given I'm doing this video and I'm about to post it. But taking the piss aside, large chunks and frequent chunks of time where I'm not I reduce the stimuli and the amount of sensory stimulation I'm getting, which for me means not being on social media, not watching TV. TV can be quite stimulating. If I do allow myself to watch TV, it's into very easy escapism. Think Downton Abbey, think The Crown, think Love Actually. Oh my God, are they making Love Actually too? I so hope so. Anyway, back to the point. Sitting quietly in nature, laying in a very relaxing room that makes you feel relaxed. I often play a lot of mindful or Reiki healing music, which really helps all of these things help my nervous system, just like that snow globe. And if the snow globe is constantly shaken, the particles are constantly everywhere and it feels chaotic. And that's the best way I think to think of our nervous system in fibromyalgia. And we need to create time at periodical intervals for all of that snow globe to come down. I really do think this. Taking a walk in nature, just lying in a really quiet room, away from any interruptions, and daydreaming. Having lovely daydreams, imagining lovely dreams that you have, lovely visions, remembering lovely memories. Sitting in silence with yourself, reading a book because it engages a different part of your brain. It's really important, and the research has shown this, that you read the physical book, not the online, because the way we read a physical book, it engages a different part of our brain, which number one is far more immersive, but it's also far more relaxing. Fibre fog. I don't know anybody else who gets this. I get a lot of fibre fog. Well, I know what I want to say, but I just can't grasp the word. So that's a really, really big thing, and I think probably the most significant thing that I have to do every single day is create periods where I basically completely minimise any stimuli or interruptions, and that does involve getting very comfortable with just being with yourself. Sometimes that's with a good book, sometimes that's just laying in nature or walking in nature, but it does mean that you have to get used to being with yourself and not, constantly. This world is basically created to pull us into it, to distract us, to constantly distract us from ourselves. And ironically, if I allow it to do that to me with fibromyalgia, my mental health, my neuro ability to regulate my nervous system is just shot to pieces. One of the big things I do a lot is I put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I often leave my phone in a separate room to the room I'm in, so it creates, I have to go and get it, but the Do Not Disturb thing is best. And I think also we've got into this narrative in our society of, oh my God, we've got to have a phone and somebody needs to get hold of us. Well, what happened before we had mobile phones? If people really need to get hold of us, they'll find a way. And I think we have to have faith that, if our kids or friends or family, something truly awful happens, which is, the probability is very, very low. We're worrying, we spend most of our time worrying about things that the probability is incredibly low. Then we just have to trust in the universe and have faith that, we will be able to be got hold of. But we can't give in to that anxiety and worry, or I can't give in to that anxiety and worry, because otherwise, literally, it feels like it drives you mad. So I don't know who needs to hear this today. Maybe I need to hear this, because I know that yesterday in particular was a really, really, really tough day, really tough. and just lots of different pissy things that I just felt overwhelmed by. I just couldn't really cope with this overwhelm, sensory overload, crushing feeling of despair, and just not being able to face the challenges that life poses. So today, and I know it's very difficult if you're working full time, which I don't do. I study a lot, but today I haven't allowed myself to do any studying or research, and I am literally, all I'm allowed to do today is to be with nature and to read. And actually, I think if nothing else, whether you have fibromyalgia or not, reading is a hugely important aspect of being a human being, because reading enables, we only experience one teeny weeny bit of life. There's this massive array of different lives out there, and in order to build and increase our empathy and our ability to understand the rich tapestry of life, reading is a really wonderful way, because what it does is, particularly fiction, and they say you should read more fiction than non-fiction, is that it immerses you in a world, in somebody else's life that you haven't lived. And what that does is it expands our understanding, and it's like an empathy lab, because it helps us understand how people feel in different situations which may not have been present in our life. And if we can expand our empathy, actually that means we can connect at a deeper level and have a deeper understanding with our fellow human beings. But also it means that we can have more empathy for ourselves. It also means that we can be more forgiving of ourselves. It also means that we can be more loving of ourselves, because very often we'll read something and we'll see that, we can look objectively in a story, and because that person's being too hard on themselves, they did the best they could with what they had at that point in time. And by reading that in a really good story with a good writer where you're immersed in it, it actually reflects it back to yourself, and it makes you pause, and it makes you think about maybe some of the decisions and the actions that come up as a parallel in your life. And then what it's doing is it's reflecting empathy and understanding back to you. So I hope that makes sense. But I felt that was important to share, because I don't think in modern day life taking time out is almost seen as a privilege and a luxury. And I think that's really wrong. I think it's a fundamental part of our well-being, and it should be something that we embrace much more fully. I think it's healthy at all for us to be rammed and on the go kind of 8 hours, 10 hours solid, taking free, even if you're working, just taking 5 or 10 minutes out every hour, every 2 hours, just going outside in nature, feeling the sun or the wind on your face, just going and standing somewhere that is quiet, and you can just build up. And I think it is a bit of a skill. It's something I think actually I've got pretty good at. And the menopause helped me with that, actually, is spending time alone. I think we are born into a world where we very rarely spend that much time on our own, and it can be quite difficult just being with ourselves, and because we might have uncomfortable feelings about ourselves. We might have that anxiety where we feel we should be doing something, and it is an addiction, really. Distraction's an addiction. It's like any other addiction. We have to kind of get beyond that. And I think for fibromyalgia sufferers, this is a really, really, really important, I can't say how, I just can't overstate how important it is, certainly to me, in terms of managing my fibromyalgia, is to have these very frequent mindful periods of time, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours if you can, all day if you can, some days, not all the time. Everything's a balance. If you go to extreme with that, you start feeling isolated and lonely. So it is a balance, but it is these periods, these interjections, and what it does is it allows my nervous system just to come down. It allows the snow globe to settle, and it allows it to rest, because it's when it gets so oversensitized and so exhausted, that's when the meltdowns come. So I hope that helps. Lots of love.